Everything wrong with the live action Lilo and Stitch, or when a hate movement gets a hold of my childhood memories. No, what's going on here is that the Disney movies had a core message, and Lilo Stitch is about family, and that means self-sacrifice. But the feminist hate mongers that got a hold of Disney, they're not about self-sacrifice. They're not about other people. They're selfish people. And so that's what comes out. That's the message of the movie. Think of yourself only, right? Now, this is talked about by modern girls. I know that's a very cringy handle. And of course, she doesn't understand this. Also, I don't find her in her comment section, so her subs are just there for her views. So anyway, she discusses this in a perfectly good paint drying voice. Let's get into the important parts of the breakdown here. Okay, one of the things is to drain away uh, any of the drawbacks of the female characters.
An early sign that the remake doesn't understand its source material is with its introduction of Lilo, who now has the social skills to successfully sneak into a resort. And I couldn't help.
They understand the source material. They're simply altering it to the way they like it. Feminists are self-insert people. They're narcissists. They can't see other people. They can't empathize with other people. So they put themselves in stand-ins as Lilo. And so Lilo is now going to be the smart one who knows everything and everyone else is stupid. That's how that works, right? The next thing is to drain any positive traits out of male characters.
Ukulele when Lilo got in trouble. In the original movie, the Kumu was tired of Lilo's shenanigans, but still understanding of her situation. After all, she's a little girl whose parents just died. But did you know that in the live action, he actually kicks her out of class permanently? Don't get.
Yeah, of course. You see, in the original, he's a loving, caring adult who takes care of his charges, right? But they got to drain that off him, right? The feminists who are completely narcissistic see themselves as always right and everyone else is wrong. So that's the way it plays out with Lilo in the live action, right? And of course, one of the other uh, things they do, if they don't just drain out all the positive traits and they want to keep those positive traits, they simply swap out the male character for female characters. Say, there, now we can have positive traits, right?
Of our next big change, which is the introduction of Mrs. Keikoa as the social worker. Now, I love the choice of having Tia Carrere, the original voice of Nani, make a return in the live action, but I'm not.
I don't. Why would you like that? Because she's not returning as her voice. She's getting rid of a character you like. So, modern girls, you were part of the problem. Oh, by the way, modern girls, there's no such thing as modern girls. You're the same species you were 10,000 years ago.
Not sure if this character was the right way to do it. Making her the Kumuhula would have been plenty, if you ask me. In the animated movie, Nani did have.
See, now, this character, I forget the name, was voiced by Ving Rhames. It basically looks like him. And this character had all these positive male characters, traits, right? The thing is, he came off as a father figure. In other words, he came in and gave the harsh reality. He wants to help these girls. First of all, he's on their side. So he's a loving man towards young women, which they don't want to show. Two, he's a realist. He's limited by rules. And so he's saying to them, you're limited by rules. See, that's bad, right? Men don't tell girls what to do. It doesn't matter how many harsh realities out there. The girls want something, you just let it roll. So that's why they got rid of him. He's one of the most important characters because he's basically a go-between to what the girls desire and the harsh realities. He's a buffer zone. And he shows all these positive male traits that have to be drained away or swapped over to a female character.
We meet our next character, Tutu, David's grandmother and Nani's neighbor.
Exactly. She's going to be the surrogate mom. Why? Because in the end, they want to change it so that uh, I forgot the sister's name, the older sister's name. They want her to have absolute freedom. So in the show, she stays. She self-sacrifices for Lilo. This one, there is no self-sacrifice. Selfish people despise self-sacrifice. They're never going to do it themselves. So they put those traits onto the female character.
She gives us a nice exposition dump, letting us know that Nani had previously received a full ride to college, but declined in order to take care of Lilo.
That's important too. College, right? It's this idea that not only are you special, but you're going to go off and do fantastic things. You're going to gain status. You're going to become somebody. You've got all this potential and you've just got to go and get it. That means you're not going to be held down by children, right?
It's a more literal sacrifice than in the animated version, and I'm conflicted about how I feel about it. On one hand, sure, it gives us more insight into Nani's life and interests, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, why would Nani need to go to San Diego to learn about marine biology, as if the University of Hawaii doesn't also have a great program?
See, there's a couple things. For one, she's a marine biologist, right? It's a high prestige job, right? So it's like her dream, of course, is something that is not just self-fulfilling, but it's up there. I don't know how to describe it exactly. Let me think about it. Think about the right words. Oh yeah, it's posturing. I care about the environment, right? That's what it is. I'm this extra special person. That's the first thing. The second thing is she has to leave. All these shows concerning these women, the women have to leave because they're above where they're at. No matter how nice of a place they live, they always present you with a place that people want to be, in this case, Hawaii, but it's never good enough, right? Family and friends are beneath these psychopaths. So you have to understand what the motivation is going on here. Okay, more removal of any positive traits from male characters. They get rid of the redemption arc to one of the antagonists.
Lee and Jumba land on Earth and use a device to copy the appearance of some random humans to use as a disguise. It's pretty obvious that this was less of a creative decision and more of a budgeting one, but unlike a lot of people, I don't actually hate the concept.
Really, you don't hate the concept? Yeah, it's budgeting. You know why? Because they're not out to make money. They're out to make these live actions that spit on male men, right? So they want to make it as cheap as possible. They're not going to, and these people have no talent. So they're not going to do something fantastic like this, like the original Lilo and Stitch. They're going to take all the shortcuts they need, right? Just to churn this stuff out there. They're burning Disney down, modern girls. They're burning your childhood memories down. That's the sacrifice, not the self-sacrifice, just your sacrifice to make these man-hating films.
Sure, you miss out on the joke of these aliens hiding in plain sight, but my actual issue with this change is its execution. Billy Magnuson at least commits to the role, but he almost makes Pleakley too stupid. Like his
He doesn't make it, they make it. They took any positive traits out of this male character.
animated counterpart was genuinely trying to seem professional at the beginning. He wasn't calling Jumba his best friend and giving out hugs, but the new version does have some funny one-liners though. Jumba is the bigger problem. Zach Galifianakis is totally phoning in his performance, lacking any of the character's mad scientist energy or humor. It almost feels like Disney just hired whatever actor they could think of that would make the weird fat jokes relevant, but then forgot that Galifianakis has lost a bunch of weight. Although they make it obvious that he's going to have an antagonistic role, his switch to a villain doesn't really feel earned. And because he has no redemption arc, he never joins the Ohana, which is kind of sad because in the animated franchise, it's clear that he does love Lilo, Stitch, and Pleakley in his own way.
Yeah, Jumba. He's actually a good guy. And he grows to love. They're denying that to this male character. That's why they made him the villain. It wasn't because there was too many characters or didn't like the original Heavy. This character is a male character that gets a redemption arc and shows positive traits. And so they have to drain it away. And so I'm going to just skip over to this guy, what's his roughest drafts, who mentions it more boldly. Let's hear this.
He's never a real threat. The reason Jumba wasn't the primary antagonist in the original is because the movie clearly wanted to make him a little bumbling and redeemable. How do you expect a villain to be taken seriously as a threat when they're always the butt of the joke? As such,
Yeah. Sandberg here is right. How can you take him seriously when he's always the butt of the joke? But that's the whole point of it, right? The point is that the men are villains and villains are male. And males are always bad, but they're also ineffectual and bubbling. It's the same way that white nationalists see Jewish men, right? They're not smart as we are, but they're cunning, right? They got where they are through stealing what belongs to us. That's the whole point of this, right? That's what's going on here. They're taking this character and saying, okay, we're going to drain out anything good from him, take away all his joy, all his redemption, and we're also going to make him the villain because he's incompetent at being the villain. Right. That's the whole point of this, right? Men are evil and stupid. Okay, more about the Ving Rhames character.
Responsibility and ownership. Next, we meet this film's version of Cobra Bubbles, who is just a regular CIA agent tasked with investigating the spaceship crash. Besides this career change making the character a lot more generic, it's another case of miscasting. My apologies to Courtney B. Vance. I'm not sure why Ving Rhames didn't reprise the role. Maybe he was just unavailable, but if they
No. It's not that he didn't reprise. They didn't ask him. They didn't want him there. He looks like this character. They don't want a male character like this, who looks cool, who's a good person, who puts rules on and limitations on the female characters, right? That's why they swapped him out to a female, like I said before. Okay.
square of Oahu thanks to all the tourists. And something about Disney showing this little girl having fun at these resorts when they're the reason so many Hawaiians can no longer afford to live there is pretty tone deaf considering the original film's message. I mean, just last year, the same resort that we see Lilo hanging out at was part of a massive strike asking for fair wages.
Modern girls, there's no way I believe that you give a shit about these issues. You can't even have a conversation with the people in your comment section. So you are virtue signaling. And the fact is, if you're making a kids show about family, all this stuff has to be thrown out. It's not important. Right. So put your virtue signaling. Now, of course, because these feminists are countless bums, it hurts the dialogue as well.
As the absence of his own Ohana. And honestly, he's just way too chatty in this scene for me. I think Disney wanted lots of, "aw, he's so cute" moments to secure their merchandise sales, but sometimes being silent says more than words do.
Exactly. But the writers are bad writers. One of the hallmarks of a bad writer is too much dialogue. Right. This is what happens when feminist hacks get a hold of your childhood memories. Right. Oh, but this is the most important part, of course. The death of the family message.
Mrs. Keikoa and Bubbles show up at the house, but the extra characters make the whole sequence a lot less interesting. Mrs. Keikoa has the exact same conversation with Nani as she did earlier, and even though Bubbles is pretending to be the social services director, he says one sentence to her and that's it. Now I do think that Lilo grilling him is funny, especially the "yeah, I can read, I'm reading you like a book" line, but this version of Bubbles just doesn't do much. He's just like, "yay, I found the alien." Lilo and Stitch accidentally mess up Nani's job interviews, but instead of both sisters recognizing that they're in trouble, they have Lilo save the day by finding Nani a job. So
yeah, Lilo saves the day. Why? Because responsibility isn't for feminist man-haters. This is the first time that they've turned around and said, okay, we'll find an ex machina to save the day. So the girls don't have to face consequences. They never want the female characters to face consequences of their actions.
now, instead of their family bonding, where we start to see Nani's veneer crack, she's just teaching a bunch of white people how to surf. But I will admit that since this is the first time we see Nani truly happy, it does give her some great character development, even if it comes at the expense of the Ohana and Stitch's understanding of family.
Oh, really? So you're saying, hey, this is good. Even though the main point of the original Disney Lilo and Stitch is thrown out. Right? Who cares about Stitches? Who cares about, his character arc? It's all about this Nana girl who all the young feminist women identify with. That's what's going on here. Okay, save the very best for last. This is what the destruction of the movie was really all about. The death of self-sacrifice of the family.
Maybe because Lilo doesn't do her adoption bit, or because Bubbles doesn't remind the councilwoman that they've met before.
Oops, it's freezing on me.
We just wind up with a
Oh, yeah.
lot of weird alien voices and very little humanity. They go back to the house where Mrs. Keikoa is waiting for them, where she's decided to place Lilo with Tutu. I respect the film's inclusion of the idea of Hanai families, even if they usually aren't this official, but I just don't buy Tutu as a real member of the Ohana. I mean, where was she when Nani needed help with the groceries or interviewing for jobs? It might have read
Exactly, where was she? So, because she isn't a part of a family. This is a young woman dumping her responsibility off on strangers. That's what it is. Here, take care of this kid so I don't have to bother. That's the message of the live action Lilo and Stitch, right? You're female, the world centers around you. If you have any responsibilities, dump them. Family's not important. Nothing else is important. You're everything.
as too romantic for Disney's modern era, but I think
No. I'm not letting you get away with that. Too romantic from the modern era. No, too romantic for feminist. They don't want to have a case where a guy is loved by a girl. That's what's going on, modern girl.
they should have put more of an emphasis on David and his relationship with the sisters, instead of creating a whole new character.
Yeah, but they're not going to do that, genius. because that would put value on a male character. They're not going to do that.
With Lilo's support, Nani heads to college out of state, and the message changes from Ohana means no one gets left behind to make sure you don't leave yourself behind, which is
Yeah, it's all about yourself. These man haters are selfish, narcissistic psychopaths. So that's the only message they can come across.
perfectly fine, but maybe not for this specific story. They don't
Oh, it's perfectly fine. So modern girls, you're proving that you're just like them. I'm going to back that up just a hair so you can hear that again.
don't leave yourself behind, which is perfectly fine, but maybe not for this specific story. They don't even
Oh, okay, so not for this specific story because it's my childhood memories. But otherwise, you're okay with this kind of selfishness. That's why I knew that there was something wrong with you, with the way you titled yourself, the fact that you're not talking with your subscribers. In the end, you and your virtual signaling, your needless virtue signaling. The people you're complaining about, you're one of them. Anyway, I've made my points about Lilo and Stitch, and we're going to end it here.